recording on here, and I'll say, greetings, friends. Welcome back to another episode of Dreamscapes. Today we have...
I sneeze, though.
That's
no
okay.
Promises.
Right?
Allergies.
That's okay. Me too. Today we have our friend Jen here to share Dream with us. And as my usual process is, I'm just going to sit quietly and listen while she goes through it beginning to end, and then we'll try and put stuff together after that. So, Jen, anytime you're ready.
Okay.
Go for it.
Oh, you want me to
Anytime.
start now?
Yeah, we just jump right into it.
Are you recording now?
Yes, that was the introduction.
Oh.
We're doing the thing. Do you want me to start over because you sneezed?
No, I didn't sneeze. But I was curious because I was like, oh, I thought you were going through what you were going to say for the introduction, but I guess not.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, okay.
Yes.
So I had the weirdest dream, and it's so different from any other one that I've ever had, which is weird because I don't usually dream about things that are like in the realm of fantasy or anything like that, but I had the weirdest dream, kind of apocalyptic, I guess you could say, that the sun had cracked. And I talked about it before, but the sun had cracked, and I had this feeling of impending doom. Because, I mean, who wouldn't? If you literally see the sun cracking, I'm sure you'd also be like, what just happened? But I could literally feel the heat of it because it was whirling towards the earth. And the first thought that went through my head was, I'm not even going to get to meet my boyfriend, who I'd been dating for a while. And it's weird, you know what I mean? To think that in an instant your entire life could just end. So that happened. And then I don't specifically remember dying, but I knew I was dead right after. I heard this weird voice telling me that I would be fine because there were other Earths and there were other planets I could live on. And before I knew it, I guess you could say it was a cutscene. I'm sure everybody has those in their dreams, where one moment they're doing something and the next moment they're doing something else. So something like that happened. And all of a sudden I was on this different planet. And I don't know if you've seen if you play Minecraft, if you've seen the new creative worlds they have up now. It was kind of like a floating island, but there were several moons floating around. But it wasn't just one island, of course. It was like a whole bunch of them. So it was kind of like, I guess you could say kind of like a MMORPG, like how they create the maps. Okay, too many explanations and examples.
It's all good.
For. So something like that. And I just remember thinking, if like somehow, some way I'm going to meet my boyfriend again, because we were just kind of destined. And let me reiterate and go back to the moment where, just to kind of clarify things, where right after I died, I don't know what it is, but I felt like apart from being like a human, I guess, there was also like this other part of me that was like, sorry, I'm saying like a lot. It's habitual.
It's okay.
There is this other part of me outside of like a physical body, I guess you could say. A lot of people believe in that with Christianity and other religions. But I say this in the way that a lot of conspiracy theorists say that we're like different beings and we get to live through multiple lives. I say it in that kind of sense, even though I haven't always thought about things like that or given them a lot of thought. So I guess I kind of had that otherworldly, bodily kind of feeling. Like I know that I'm going to be repeating several lives, and that was just one of them. And whoever it was, I don't know if that was a god or what, they kind of reiterated that to me as well and said, it's fine, you're going to be on another planet, you're going to be on another Earth. So that's kind of the gist of what happened.
Okay. And that was the full dream, is appearing in this new place, seeing the environment, and then woke up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Woke up.
Good deal. That's a great start. Now, the most difficult part of my process, tearing the paper without tearing the paper. I did it. Look at that. Look at that. Nice and clean.
Lucky.
Small victories. Oh, more often than not, I don't know if you can tell there's just a shredded mess of all the papers I've torn wrong. Anyway, small things make me happy. So, okay, so that's basically phase one. Got through it pretty quick. Usually doesn't take long. Most streams like that, even if they're very short, or even if they're rather long, it doesn't take much time to get through them. So my phase two is we go back through it, and so I can kind of help you remember things a little bit better and maybe pull out a little more details. I'm going to ask a kind of more focused questions about the process and the timing of things and sensations and different stuff. So you said this was the weirdest dream and it was much different than other dreams you had. And did you get that sense after you had woken up, looking back on it, or did you get that sense at the very beginning of the dream that this feels like something different?
I guess you could say, it's kind of weird. You know how people talk about lucid dreaming where they know that they're dreaming?
Yeah.
Well, I don't necessarily always get the sense that, oh shoot, I'm in a dream. And then, everything kind of revolves around me. Mm-hmm. I kind of get the sense that I can choose my decisions, but I don't immediately come to the conclusion that I'm in a dream. So I guess you could say I had an idea this is weird. I've never experienced something like this before, but I never said out loud, this is a dream, or kind of snapped out of, REM sleep and went, oh, well, I can control what's going on.
Okay.
So I kind of woke up, and this is kind of how I usually wake up from dreams. For the first few seconds, I'm still kind of half asleep, so I will still kind of think that I'm in a dream, so I kind of say things out loud, or feel like I'm still in the world, but I'm not really.
Okay. So just to be clear, this was... Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, so this was a feeling you had in the dream that something was special or different. Okay.
Very different, and it's strange. I don't know how to explain it. I mean, how else would you explain? You feel like you've had multiple different lives, and one dream made you kind of realize that.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's what I wanted to clarify. Is this a feeling you had in the dream or a feeling you had reflecting on the dream after waking up? So it may be important that
both.
It maybe
kind of both.
Okay, both. Or at least
But if you're asking long term,
yeah.
I would say long term. I haven't really thought about it since then, but now that I'm talking about it again, it kind of makes me feel nostalgic towards it.
Okay.
Per se. I'm kind of feeling those same feelings again. That was a weird fucking dream. Sorry, I don't know if I can curse.
You certainly really can. Weird. This is not an 18+ channel, but it's also not for kids. So I want people to feel free to express themselves any way they need to, and not suppress their natural expression. So yeah, curse like a fucking sailor if you need to. It's all good.
Okay.
Yes. When you say nostalgic, like the idea you would want to go back into that dream because you enjoyed the feeling of being in the dream?
No, I say nostalgic just now because what I mean is, I guess talking about it, I guess I can feel what I felt when I first woke up. I don't say nostalgic as in I wish I could go back through that dream, because it was kind of a weird, kind of. I feel like if I went through that same exact dream again, I'd be scared. I'd be like, okay, why am I going through this twice now?
Sure, and there are recurring dreams. I just talked to a couple of folks that have had recurring dreams, and sometimes they change a little bit each time. We can do another interpretation for sure. I do want to start having people come back, but I'm trying to do new people as often as possible for now. Maybe build up a little anticipation for having people come back.
That's fair.
Yeah. Where was I here? And so you felt like you described it as apocalyptic, and was that the landscape you were in, or was that specifically referring to the sun being dangerous? And
the feeling, the atmosphere itself.
Okay.
I guess you could say the feelings itself. I mean, you feel like you were in an apocalyptic situation if you saw the sun crashing down on you. So I guess I could say that's just the way I felt. I was fearful.
Sure.
I don't remember anybody else around me, but I do just remember myself.
Yeah, that would have been one of my questions too. Were there any other people around you? No other people.
No, I just recall myself.
Okay. Yeah, and did you have the feeling of fear and of that apocalyptic atmosphere before you actually saw something happening to the sun, or was it after you saw, oh my God, something's happening to the sun and this is the end of the world?
I don't remember anything from before. I just remember immediately dreaming about the sun cracking, and then...
Okay.
Yeah. So, I guess you could say right off the bat.
Yeah, kind of simultaneous. It's like this, you get immediately presented with this image of, oh my God, the sun, and immediately fearful, apocalyptic feeling.
Yeah. Oh, I apologize for any background noise. There's family members walking in and out of the upstairs area. So
that's no trouble. And hey, if they pop in to say hello, we could do one or two things. We can just have them say hi on the stream, or we can cut it out later. Doesn't matter. Hey, if you need to take a break, okay. It's okay too. So,
all right.
Yeah, pretty easy going with the process. So you described the sun cracking, and I want to spend a little bit of time kind of getting a visual image in my head of what that looked like. So from where you were standing, or where you were located, so to speak, I don't know if you were standing, did it look like
standing.
You were standing? Okay. Did it look like the normal sun, pretty small, far off in the distance, or did it look like it was pretty close? Did it look larger than the sun would look in the sky?
It's kind of as in, it wasn't third person or anything. It was kind of like, when you take a camera and you focus it in on a certain thing, that's what it was like. So it wasn't like from a certain amount of distance, like from my distance. It was like close up. I just saw it, and then...
Okay.
It's kind of panoramic. Is that the word? I don't know if I'm using these words right.
That's fair enough. Well, that's one of the things we do is try and like, what if I use a word and you use the same word, but we mean two different things? I had an interview like that too, where I mentioned the idea of relationship, and the person was like, no, I wasn't in a relationship. I was like, well, in a relationship is different than, say, having a relationship with a friend, family. Yeah, and we just needed to make sure we both had the same understanding. So you had the idea of almost zooming in on it, like it filled your vision?
Vision.
Okay.
Yeah, something like that.
Gotcha. That's probably better than trying to guess, well, how far away was it? I don't know. I don't even know how far the sun is away from the Earth. I've seen the number. I can't remember what it is. Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So did you notice anything about the color of the sun before it cracked, or the first vision you had was it's cracking, it's happening?
The first vision I had was it cracking.
Okay. And how did that happen? How would you describe it cracking? Straight in half vertically, horizontally, corner to corner, kind of?
Diagonally from like a corner, I would say not 2/3, that's stupid, like 1/3 of the way from the corner, and it wasn't straight. It was like something would naturally crack. Okay. Like, little pivots and, curves and whatnot.
Gotcha. So it was an irregular kind of jagged tear through the sun.
Yeah.
Okay. And you said, just like if you're looking at it from your perspective, was it from the top right down to the bottom left, or vice versa?
From the top right. No, it was the corner top right of the sun.
Corner top right, down to the bottom left.
Circle.
Yeah.
Up at the like that. If that makes sense.
Oh, so it was actually, so if as you're looking at it, it was that top right. Yeah. 1/3 that was cracked off.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm actually going to kind of draw a little picture for myself here. Jagged tear there. And you kind of described it as like 2/3 and then 1/3 cracking off.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see so if the sun was yellow, could you tell? Like our normal sun?
Orange yellow, yeah.
Orange yellow?
Color.
Okay. And how about that tear? What color was the tear? Could you tell?
It was just like a crack. Like you'd crack like a cup or something like that. It wasn't a color. It was like literally a chunk of the sun getting cracked off.
Okay, so there was no, like, you didn't watch it spiderweb crack and then break off. It was like just chunk, it just separated?
Yeah, and then hit the earth.
Ow. Okay. Did you remember anything being inside the sun? Like when you saw that chunk break off, was there anything in the space that would have been connected? Okay. That may or may not be relevant. Yeah, and never feel bad if I ask you for details and you're like, I don't know. I never saw that. I don't know what I was feeling. Those things are perfectly fine. I do something I call rattling doorknobs. I test it to see if it'll come open. Maybe there's something there. Maybe it doesn't come open. We move on. That's just fine. So you said it fell towards the earth, or how would you say it? Is it like something falling due to gravity? Just shunk, it came down, or was it blown off and like hurtled towards? How would you describe that?
This is the weird part. I don't know what it is. I guess you could say, well, because you said you're a gamer. You know when you lag, and like it's like you're at one spot one moment and then go to the next spot. Yeah, it was like that, and it just came crashing. Okay,
there was kind of you didn't get to watch it fly through the sky. It's just
no, nothing smooth. It was like
okay,
and then crashed. Weird.
I'm gonna have to start coming up with words for these things, kind of like a blip, but like a lag. Yeah, I don't know if that's significant or not. Sometimes our brains just shortcut things because it's like it's not going to waste the time doing a slow motion drop unless that's actually relevant. So it'll often just shortcut things and say, here's the important part to hit the earth and let's move on. Yeah. And that may be significant. It may be not. Do you remember? Okay, so now I want to get to just a little bit of the surroundings around where you were standing when you first appeared. Do you remember, was it just a blank area? Were you in a desert, a forest, a city? What sense of your surroundings did you have?
It kind of seems like I was in my front yard, standing there, something like that. I didn't see the specific place, but you get a feeling from the atmosphere.
So the sense you had was, I'm at home, this is my front yard, and I'm going about my normal life, and suddenly the sun's falling apart and crashing into the earth.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And where did it hit? How close to you? How far away? Did it hit a mountain? Did it fall in the ocean? Do you remember how it impacted the earth?
Well, I mean, when you think about the scale of the sun to the earth, I'm sure even just a piece of it would be enough to cause the same kind of collision as the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs, probably even bigger. So like I said, I don't remember exactly what happened once I saw it hurtling towards the earth. After that, I kind of just died, I guess. And so I went into this kind of black area,
so rather
kind of like in the middle of space.
Okay, I want to get there next. I'm sorry if this is sometimes a little annoying. I get so specific on these things. I'm trying to figure out.
No, it's fine.
Okay, good deal.
It is an interview.
I got you. Well, yeah, and I get so specific. Sometimes it's those little details, and I don't always know what they mean. But I try to trust my instincts and let's figure out what that really looks like, what that experience was, and then hopefully later we can put it together into something. So what actually happened was, it was almost this one single moment of the sun cracking, a chunk falls off, oh my God, it's the end of the world, and then just kind of the sense that everything got obliterated. You didn't actually have an experience of watching it fall or seeing an impact and a wave of fire, nothing.
No, nothing like that.
So kind of immediate, like complete destruction. Now you can see why I have the camera pointing down so people can see I'm writing. Okay, and then and that's the. Do you remember having any other thoughts or feelings right before obliteration, like right before you died?
Well, like I said, I was terrified.
Just that feeling of fear, and then dead.
And then, okay. And then after that, I literally felt nothing, like no fear, nothing. Like I felt kind of peaceful, I guess you could say.
Okay.
It was, I guess the word is aesthetic, because when you think about photographs where certain things are very let's say like there's a photograph of someone being underwater or something like that. Things that are very like you can't explain the feeling. That's all I'm going to say. I can't explain it.
That's okay. Maybe some of my questions can help because
I guess peaceful.
I mean, peaceful's good, and that may be sufficient. But the idea that you were terrified, and now all the fear is gone. I mean, it's a very important transition too. So no fear, very peaceful feeling, very calm.
And that's when that being or God or something spoke to me.
And you said you were in a dark place,
kind of like in the middle of space.
Like in space, could you see stars, or you just had this sense that there was a vast emptiness around you?
Yeah.
Okay.
The letter.
Gotcha. And it was all completely black everywhere. You couldn't see anything. Mm-hmm. And did you have a sense of yourself, your physical body, at all?
That's an interesting question.
Yeah.
I don't know about that one. I don't think so, no.
Okay.
Because, I mean, I wasn't weird that I died or something. Because, I mean, obviously I was no longer on Earth. And something had happened to it.
Okay. So you're just kind of this consciousness, perhaps, floating in an unknown vast amount of space. And did you have a sense of any time passing while you were there?
No. It was just seemed like a pretty quick moment, like whoever it was that had something to say to me said it, and then I kind of transitioned into the new life or something like that.
Oh, just to go back a little bit, you did have the thought of being unable to meet your boyfriend, and that happened. Yeah. That thought occurred to you as the sun exploded. It was kind of all at once.
I was like, the first thing I thought about was I never even got to meet the person that I initially planned the majority of my life with.
Okay, now just to kind of tease this out, is this a feeling about someone that does not exist, and this feeling existed in the dream alone, or are you referring to someone you're dating in real life?
My actual boyfriend.
Okay, so in this dream, at this moment, you were your mind was turned to thinking about never getting to see your boyfriend again?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, just the fact that we would both die and I wouldn't be there next to him.
The idea that you would both die alone?
Yeah.
Okay. You also did kind of make reference to future plans, like having, I know it's an intense jumble of multiple emotions and thoughts that are all happening in kind of a split second in the dream. But I want to kind of make sure I understand everything as much as you can remember. So you did mention, the idea of like you would never be able to carry out some future plans. Was that specifically to reference to dying alone, or something else? Some other?
I guess you could say mourning the fact that I never got to live my full life with the person I wanted to live it with.
Okay. All right, good deal. Okay, now back to the vast emptiness. I try not to ignore my own notes if possible, because I wrote it down for a reason. So you didn't have the sense of being there very long, so you kind of blip in, you realize where you are, and then almost immediately a voice speaks to you.
Yeah.
Did you have the sense of hearing it, or just knowing what it was communicating?
I don't quite remember that.
You don't recall whether you kind of actually heard a voice. You did describe it that way, which is possible. Say again? Oh, take your time.
I did describe it that way.
Yeah, and that may be sufficient. And if you don't know,
dreams get very fuzzy once you wake up.
They really do. I'm just gonna I'm gonna say, just heard a voice, and that's fine. It may not be that significant. Yeah. And you described it as telling you basically that there are other Earths, other planets. Do you remember kind of more exactly how it might have been phrased?
What it said?
Yeah.
I do. I do.
What? Let's hear it. Yeah.
So it said to me, And it sounded more like a feminine voice, but it said to me that you will be fine. There are other Earths. And even though it was like a simple statement, there was a lot I derived from it. As in, like, you will be fine. You will meet who it is that you need to meet. You will be on another planet. This is not the first, like, you know, I just had that feeling like this is not the first time you've been here. It's as if, like, it's something that's been explained to me 100 times. And instead of explaining it again, it's just, you'll be fine. You'll go to another Earth. That kind of thing.
I don't want to miss some of the stuff you said there. So you said, the voice said almost precisely, you will be fine. There are other Earths. And the immediate sense of understanding that you had multiple elements. So one of them was that you don't need to be sad or mournful that you didn't meet that boyfriend, because you will. It's that, don't worry about it. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Something like fate, I guess you could say. Destiny.
Okay. You also had the feeling that this has been explained to you many, like 100 times before. And maybe you had forgotten it while you were alive, but now that you're in this other place, you're like, oh yeah, I just forgot.
Something like, you know, reincarnation, where a lot of people say, I guess you could say that's the sense I had from it. Like, you've been through this before. It's nothing, like, crazy. You'll understand all of it in time.
Okay, good deal. And then, so you've got multiple very brief, intense experiences that are happening in sequence, but they pack a lot of information into just that little bit. It's fascinating. So I'm really trying to pull that big ball of knotted yarn apart and look at what's inside. Where does it connect? And you had the sense that it was more of like a female voice. Do you remember thinking anything else? Anything you can suddenly remember about what you experienced hearing that voice and the message?
No. Just like I said, that I had met this person before, that it was somebody very familiar. And I guess you could say, in a way, I was still thinking about my past life, so to speak. Like, I still felt like the same person, but at the same time, I felt like this is something I've been through before. I've heard this voice before, and I guess that's why I felt such at ease.
Okay.
But it's not just because of the voice; it was also the place that I was in. Like, it felt like it was some place that kind of took you away from the more humane feelings, I guess you could say.
Okay. Kind of took you away from human feelings in terms of disconnecting you from material fears,
anguish,
worries, pain. Okay.
Yes, exactly like that.
Gotcha. Okay. Do you have a sense, like right at the very end, before you transition to somewhere else, do you have a sense of that you moved yourself, or that something moved you towards the next?
Something else moved me.
Okay.
That's the sense I got. And by the time the person was done speaking, the god or whatever, I felt very relieved. Like, okay, well, I know that I'm going to move on.
Okay.
Not even that I'm going to move on, actually. More like the fact that I've heard the person's voice in general. Like, I felt relieved. Okay. And then the next thing I know, I'm just on another planet. Grown up, not even a baby or anything like that. Just grown up.
Okay.
Doing something like picking fruit from a bush or something like that.
Okay, that was going to be my first question. What were you doing? So you had a sense of yourself being grown up in terms of how much older than you are now, would you say?
A little older. I think around like my 20s at least. Early 20s. Picking like something that kind of looked like raspberries or strawberries from like a bush near the house. I don't know what I could say, what house, but near what I guess I thought was home.
Okay. So these are the first things you kind of wake up to in this new experience. And what was the next thing you kind of noticed about your surroundings?
Well, like I said, there were moons. Specifically, there was a moon right next to like... So basically, this house I'm talking about is at the very edge of like this floating island. Not the very edge, but it's like, you know, right here at the floating island. Sorry, I'm holding us.
It's okay.
The house would be right here. The edge would be like somewhere over here, and it kind of hangs off into like this cliff of sorts. And then right at the edge, there was like kind of this moon.
Okay.
And I remember just a little while before the dream ended, the moon cracked too.
Oh, shit.
It's fucking weird. I don't know what it is. I just remember thinking, oh, this is a normal thing, whatever. But then it kind of smacked the corner of the little island thing up. And like I had to kind of grab some people and pull them back up. I don't know. I'm just now remembering this, but it did happen. I promise you, this happened.
I believe you. No, this happens. This happens every time I talk to people. They start to get back into the experience and their feelings, and that it opens the door to remembering. Oh yeah, this other thing happened, and that's fantastic. That's good. Add any details you remember.
That's what I meant by being nostalgic before. I was nostalgic about recalling the dream is what I meant.
Gotcha.
And feeling those feelings again.
Okay. Good deal. Good deal. Well, I think that means the process is working. So don't let me forget that detail with the moon cracking and the people. But I'm getting real specific with some of these details. So the first thing you remember, you kind of get your head down and you're picking fruit of some kind and some kind of berry from a bush. And you realize that you're near a house and that this house was near the edge of a cliff. And you realize that was
the floating island thing.
And you realize that this is a cliff because I'm floating on an island up in the sky. And you had the sense it was disconnected from the ground up in the sky. Okay. And then
like there's nothing, you know how... Oh, sorry about that.
Go ahead.
Okay. So you know how... Again, I'm going to use another Minecraft reference.
Please
you know how when you're walking through Minecraft, you see like random little islands floating up for no fucking reason? Sometimes there's trees on them. Something like that. Like you could imagine their roots coming out from underneath like this platform of Earth.
Is that a sense that you had of the island? Is that there were probably roots hanging out underneath it? I mean, it's a given because it wasn't like a big piece of ground or anything. There would be roots coming out from underneath it. Okay. So if I have another question, but I want to continue on the kind of the chronological things you notice. And so the picking berries, the house, the edge of the cliff, you realize there's this big moon there, but you also mentioned earlier there were multiple moons. So at some point you kind of realized that was
not a giant moon. It was something. I guess you could say that it was about the size of this room.
Okay, so it was kind of a very small moon.
In comparison to me, in comparison to a person, it's big. But in general, I guess you would say it would like a dwarf moon. You know how Pluto has a moon? Kind of like that. Like tiny one. Does Pluto have a moon? Am I just being stupid? I don't know.
I just agreed with you, so I'm stupid too if we're wrong. But I think I'm sure it does. I mean, even a tiny planet like Pluto can have an orbiting satellite.
They just counted Pluto as a planet,
right?
Sadly.
I know they're gonna. Well, wait. Give it 50 years, they'll give it back planet status. That's science.
It's not enough all the time.
For sure. But you did have that you did mention in your first description that you had a sense, or did you see that there were other floating islands and multiple moons?
But there were other ones and multiple moons. Yeah.
Was it a feeling that you just knew yours was only one of many and that they were all similar, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
So you didn't actually look. So you didn't actually look around and go, "There's another island. There's another island." You just.
No, I saw one next to me.
You saw one near you. Okay.
So I knew there were others as well. because it wouldn't just be me out in the middle of space. I mean, it could, but
Sure.
there's some sense of logical, thinking
Sure.
in that weird jumbled up world.
Did you get a sense that each island had its own moon?
No.
No. So the
Nothing
moon,
like that. Kind of like they were scattered and random.
Okay.
And one just happened to be right next to me.
Okay. Okay. That would have been interesting. I just had that thought of like, okay, what if each island has its own moon? That might mean something, but apparently not. So scattered, random, perfectly fine. So just again, chronologically, you're having on this experience. You're picking the berries. You notice there's the house. You see the cliff. You see that there's a moon there. It's big. It's a dwarf moon, but it's big. And that's when another piece of that cracked. That moon. As soon as you kind of looked up in there. Now, did it crack in the same way the sun did? That little top right 1/3.
It was more crumbly, and it wasn't just one part. It was like multiple parts. It's kind of like it was layered, How can I explain that? Like a rock. Okay, so when you crack a rock,
yeah,
it doesn't all just come apart. It just cracks like a layer of the sediment, I guess you could say, sedimentary rocks.
Sure.
It cracks a layer off of them. It's the same way. So it kind of cracked layers off of it.
Okay. So it's almost, did you have a sense that it felt like something had been impacted or like it was cracked out from the inside? Like something was pushing it apart or that something had hit?
No, just on its own.
On its own, it just kind of cracked in layers.
I remember thinking to myself, this always happens, it's not a big deal, until it actually like hit the corner of the island and some people started to fall off. So me and like who I could only presume was like my family started to like help them up.
Okay. And just to help me see the image in my head, where were you? Like was it a case where you were standing here, the house is over here, you see the cliff and the moon there, and a piece of it falls towards the house, away from the house? How would you describe that? What's that?
I could sketch it. I could try to sketch it.
Yeah, draw a little picture. That's fine. That's one of the benefits of the camera, for sure.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah.
Let's grab a...
Take your time. I will take a drink of water. Here. Yeah. This is a good time for me to say, if you enjoy what I do, please like, share, and subscribe. You can also donate money to me if you want to, but no one's done that yet.
Okay, thankfully. Yeah. I found a pencil. Now I'm going to just push this laptop back a little bit.
Sure.
And I'm going to sketch this out real quick to the best of my abilities.
That's okay.
And okay. I'm a pretty good artist, but for the sake of this, I'm going to make most of these stick figures.
Oh, that's perfectly fine.
To get it done. It's like kind of looks creepy. I'm not going to lie. It's like a Slenderman drawing.
If at some point you want to do a better representation, post it on the Discord channel. Throw it up there. Maybe you'll be inspired to make some artwork.
Okay. Yeah, well, I do digital art as well. I just kind of want to get this, quick sketch done.
I will not judge the fullness of your skill based on this sketch.
All right. Well, I don't mind either way. It's going to be like a 10-second sketch at the most.
Perfectly fine.
Let's just say I'm right here.
Excuse me.
And this is a berry bush, I guess.
I might have to start asking people to do that. Sketch it out. Can you draw a picture of what that looks like and show the camera? Right.
Okay, so actually this is in the wrong area. Oh boy. Aggressive erasing. Yeah, that's more accurate. So we're gonna say, so it's obvious to you. We're gonna say, this is opposite, by the way, because the camera sees it. I don't know if you see it the right way.
Yeah,
but anyway,
this is my right hand. It actually looks like my left.
All right. So there's the moon right here.
Yes.
And this is the island, I guess you could say. So pieces start cracking off of this moon, and one of them hits this edge of the cliff.
Okay.
And I guess it knocked it off. And there are people who are around this area, so we help them up from the other edge.
Good to see. So it was actually that that was different than the image that I had in my head. So it's perfect to just kind of give me the lay of the land. So it was actually
that was the berry bush.
Yes. And then what can you show me on there where you were standing when you saw these things happen? You were still at the berry bush?
Yeah, let me by the berry bush, but okay, I need to erase the corner of the house so you can see. Okay, let's say I don't know if you can see it. So right there.
Okay. So the bush was actually right at the house.
At the house.
At the house.
Exactly.
And the people that were put in danger by the moon were actually closer to the edge, further from.
They didn't exist until they actually started to fall. I mean, I just mean I didn't see them.
Sure.
But then I noticed people were falling off, so I helped them.
Okay.
So their only distance was for me to rescue them. That says something.
It does, yeah. I mean, I don't know what it says, but I think that is an important idea. That's one of the next things I was going to ask you was, what were these people doing while you were picking berries and the moon was cracking? Nothing. You had no sense of them. You didn't see them. Okay.
No, I didn't see them. It wasn't like they were there or anything. They kind of willed themselves into existence to create some kind of a conflict
for drama. Yes.
Yeah. But as if the moon cracking and seeing a god speak to me wasn't conflict or drama enough. I mean, sun. Sorry.
Did you get a sense of how many people were there? 1 or 2, a dozen?
5 or 6.
Okay.
Something along those lines. There are a lot of them.
Yeah, more than a few, but not a whole bunch. And you said you had to help some of them. So some of them at least didn't get fully knocked off? Or did any of them get knocked off by the crash?
It was, yeah, they got knocked off. I told you, they were only in my existence when I saw them literally holding on to each other, hanging off the edge of the cliff.
Okay, so they were all kind of hanging onto each other and hanging onto the cliff, and if someone didn't help them, they were going to fall, but they hadn't fallen yet.
Yeah.
Okay. So you, at that point, spring into action, and suddenly there's other members of your family that are also present?
Yeah, just like, I think about 2 of them.
Okay. Did you get a sense of who those people were?
A mother, and I don't know who the other one is. Maybe a father, an uncle, a brother, or something.
But definitely one was like a mother, but the other one was a female figure.
A male figure.
I'm sorry, a male figure. Yes.
Yeah. Something like that. It's not something I really focused on, but that is what the sense I got from it.
For sure. And it may or may not be important, but we'll get that detail and see if we can plug it in somewhere. And did you get the sense that you were following them as they charged into action, or were they following you to come assist
They kind of saw me helping, and then they ran over too and also helped once they realized, something's going on.
Do you remember anything about the process of how you saved them? Did you just reach down with your hand and pull them up, or was there something more complicated?
No, I just reached down and tried, help them up.
And do you recall whether it was entirely or partially successful or unsuccessful? Did you say?
Yeah, I don't remember that part.
You don't remember whether you saved them?
I remember starting to pull them up, and then my dream for that is kind of hazy. Don't really remember it. That's kind of where it ended too. Okay.
And that may be significant as well, that you were in the middle of doing something that at the moment you felt was important, but the dream stopped. And usually whether or not a specific task is completed in the dream may be relevant. So we got a lot of really great details, probably more than you thought were there when. So this is my notes on the. You probably can't see the writing there. My notes on your initial story, and then we got three more pages here of the details. So
wow.
Yeah, no, there's a lot there, and my handwriting's a mess, and I write big and squirrely. Yeah. I could hold it up to the camera, no one could read it. So what I like to, so that was the second pass. So we do you tell the story, I try and help you pick out some more details, and then we get into phase 3. But before I start making my own suggestions, I'd like to ask people, now that you've been through it again more fully, you can kind of feel being back in there, you're seeing things you didn't see before. Do any immediate connections start coming to your mind? Did you have that experience of, that relates to something, or some additional understanding, and anything?
It's weird. Yeah. It's probably, how they say usually when you go to sleep, you dream about things that you think about beforehand. Okay, I'm not the type of girl that believes in horoscopes and stuff like that. Let me say that right now, because it's annoying for me for someone to say that they base their whole life off of a horoscope. But I watched a video just out of curiosity.
Sure.
And it told me that I was bound to meet my boyfriend at the time, that it's something that has been in the work for lives and lives now, but that it just had never come to fruition until recently, and now things are becoming complete, even though, and I quote, the person said that Earth was a very heavy place to be on, that it was not as easy to live on as other planets. And so I'm guessing, I'm making an assumption, most of my dream was based off of that.
It very well could have been.
There was this weird otherworldly feeling about it. And I'm not the type of person to believe in stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. No, and that's...
But I was like, Jesus Christ, like, this is some kind of biblical... I don't know. I just had a weird feeling about it,
Did you... Now, when you say things felt different, strange in the dream, you just mentioned biblical. Did something feel... Well, you also mentioned...
Biblical, but it was an example as to the feeling that someone would have towards something like that. It felt like
ordained by a higher power.
Yes,
gotcha.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Something like that.
Yeah, you don't have to second guess your words, because sometimes what you're doing is you have an association in your mind. You're given the best. Okay. You're given the best, closest matching feeling, and then we can pick that apart and find out what's actually inside of what you mean to say. So, yeah, no,
right.
That's what I was getting to with the whole biblical thing. Is something important, but also meaningful, ordained by a higher power, caused
and that was
to
the
happen.
Running theme.
It did seem like it. Yeah, certainly, because you were in another, apocalyptic things is very kind of biblical in a way, and across multiple mythologies and theologies.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the idea of reincarnation, also very spiritual, religious. The idea of then being reborn, also the idea of perhaps embodying a savior role of you're in this place and these people need help and you're going to jump into that. So I think there's something to that. But I think I actually might have cut you off because you were explaining maybe a little bit more about how you. Well, no, I had a thought about what you were saying is so. I'm not someone who is a believer in horoscopes either. I know I'm a Pisces. I think I was also born in the year of the snake.
Yeah.
Something like that. So I'm familiar.
I know I'm a Taurus, and that for my Chinese zodiac, I am a snake. That's the extent. I don't look at my horoscopes or anything like that, or believe that means I must act like this, or I can only date someone who is this.
There's a lot of confirmation bias, and people see what they want to see or what they hope to see, or they look for
exactly.
as long as it says something positive, positive or negative. If it's something what is it? I don't know if you remember. No, maybe it's not. No, I mean you wouldn't. Well, if you read the book, you would. There's one of my favorite fantasy book series is called the Sword of Truth novels. And one of the lines in there's a wizard in there. So it's like Benjamin the Wizard, the Dream Wizard. I want to be a wizard someday, speak magic words and see the future. But okay, so this wizard, he says,
I love reading books too.
Oh, it's good stuff. You would have probably
Terry right there. I would recommend you one, but I don't know if you're really into the fantasy stuff.
My whole life, absolutely, big fantasy nerd. But there's a good chance if you haven't come across this one, I would recommend it. It's the author's name is Terry Goodkind, and the first book is The Sword of Truth. And anyway, so this wizard, he has a saying. He says, people believe a lie for two reasons. They want it to be true, or they're afraid it might be true. So that relates, in my mind, to the horoscope stuff, where people believe what they see because, oh, that's flattering, that's nice, I want that to be true, so they believe it. Or they're afraid, if it predicts doom and gloom, that that's going to happen. So out of trying to avoid negative consequences, they give it some credence out of anxiety. You know, not to dismiss anyone out there that has more of a deep faith in horoscopes. It's just not my thing. I'm more of a practical man of science type of guy. That being said, I think it's fascinating metaphorical and metaphysical examination of the human condition. For centuries, we've been trying to break down. I mean, it's like, in some ways, horoscopes were the early manifestations of attempts at getting at psychology, but they just, you know, a lot. The same thing with a lot of religious systems. It's very similar, trying to figure out, why do people do what they do, and how do we tell people to live better lives and have it be successful. Anyway, that's all of that came to my mind when you were talking about the horoscope thing. But as you mentioned, it may be related that because you were primed by that idea before you went to bed, it was on your mind, and so you gave that some. You gave the fantasy its own legs to run. Say, sure, well, what if? And maybe, you know, just the fact that you brought that up, that it immediately seemed relevant, suggests it's possible. The other thing I look at is current events, and like how long ago did this dream happen?
I would say about a week ago. Okay. About a week ago now.
Are there any situations you're going through that are stressful, significant, and this can be either immediately prior, during, or in the near future, surrounding the time span of the dream?
Well, I am in young adulthood. It is a particularly stressful time, because you're still trying to figure out what you want to do with your life. Yeah. And things that you thought you knew, well, they kind of do a whole 180 and you don't know what to do anymore. So I guess you could say a lot of things are changing. It's psychology as well. We both have that in common. We talked about it in class actually the other day, in child psychology. Young adulthood is full of this feeling where you're in between being a child and being an adult. And I'm kind of arguing with myself internally about certain decisions I'm making. Like, you know, 2 or 3 years ago, I wouldn't be making these decisions. And now I'm thinking about blah, 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 blah. Or now it's like I have to think about whether I want to get a degree and move somewhere, or whether I want to continue my education, stay at home, and then move somewhere. Or, you know, so many big decisions. Sometimes it stresses me out. But I try not to let too many things get to me. I take it day by day, and I'm like, well, nobody knows what's going to happen in the future. So
that's true. Yeah. And you kind of said a lot there. So you said that, now I can't read my own. Oh, you said stressful time, lots of change, and you're relating it to, being in this period in between, and specifically you're using that, reference to, life stage development from your class. That makes sense, that, where you're at right now is trying to make decisions that will affect your future, and so you want to make good decisions, and you're feeling the weight of those, the burden of choosing correctly, to take you where you want to go. But then first you have to decide, where do I want to go? If you don't know where you're going, any path will take you there. But if you have a specific path, then first you pick a destination, then you can chart a course.
Oh, of course. It is very crazy. Like, there's so many age restrictions on things when you get to a certain age. Like, I'm 19, but I'm not old enough to drink. I can get behind a car, though, and put tens of hundreds of people at risk. If I'm on a highway, I can do that. Yeah. But I can't drink beer legally.
But you can't sit at home, not driving a car, and have a beer with your folks or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't do that if there's somebody who you know, is maybe a police officer. I remember at I went to this wedding with my mother and father's, mostly just family. Mm-hmm. And it's wild to me to think that I can drive now. I can vote.
Yeah.
But I'm not allowed to have a beer or wine or a drink with my family, with my mother. They let me, occasionally. I'm not going to say it out loud.
Hypothetically, yes.
Some apple juice sometimes.
Right? Absolutely.
Because, when you have family that's like, not many people are too strict on that.
Yeah. But, well, especially if they know you and they know you're responsible and they're there with you. Oh, yeah. And it's like, for sure. I mean, in Europe, it's much like, I think if you can get your chin over the bar, they'll give you a beer, that kind of thing. So maybe that's an old rule from years ago. But
it's not like they let me get pissed drunk or anything. It's just like, okay, well, I guess you can have a beer today. And my mom's like that too. She's one of the strictest people I've known in my entire life. And she's like, Mommy, can I have one beer today? She's like, okay, fine, just one.
Just one. All right, fine. Yeah, that's fine. It's just a nice experience. Yeah. So when you think of being in a stressful time and going through lots of change, I don't know why I wrote down. Oh, you said arguing with yourself about decisions, and that's where I got kind of that thinking of the future type of thing. Is there anything else more specific in the past week or anything coming up in the near future that you're particularly stressed about or putting a lot of thought into? Just out of curiosity.
Like I said, my boyfriend lives like a little far away from me, so it's hard for us to like actually meet each other, commute or whatnot. And I do have a strict traditional, very like, how do I say this? My family has come from another country.
Okay.
So the way they kind of see things is they're very traditional, and they're like, I want to make sure you go to college first, get your degrees, make your own money, and then once you're ready, you can start dating. And I'm like, Mama, you don't expect me to, date someone when I'm 25 and get married to them within the first few months, do you? Because that's just not the way it works. And I think she's slowly realizing that. So today I asked her out of curiosity. I've asked her before, and she's been like, no, I want you to get your degrees. I want you to go to college. I want you to do all this and do all that first, and then I'll let you consider dating. So I asked her to date, as a few years have passed. I'm not 15 or anything anymore.
Yeah.
And she kind of said it out like that. I don't know if it's her mood or whatever, because, mothers, depending on their mood, sometimes they're, open to something, and sometimes they're like, I don't care, just leave me alone right now. But
yeah,
I asked her today, and she told me, you know what? If you really want to date someone, you can date someone now. And I was so fucking surprised. I shit you not. I was so shocked that she was actually okay with that now.
What was the plan for college for you? Was it to go away to a college or to live at home and go to a local college?
That's what I'm doing right now, living at home and going to a local college. Because in my opinion, at least for the first 2 years, it just doesn't make sense to drop $25,000.
It's very smart. I did the same thing. Yep.
Community college. I mean, come on. It's like, I'm not even sure if I want to go into the medical field. I'm just doing it right now because, I mean, I used to be passionate about it, but it's like things change. And if it's something I go into, medicine, you have to really have the passion and the drive for that kind of stuff. Because if you do it for years and years, you can't just throw it out. You can't throw out.
Yeah. I mean, medical school is no joke. You better want to finish it because it's going to be hard as hell. Yeah.
Oh, you really have to. Yeah. 100%.
For sure. So that's all part of your future considerations is what degree do I want? Do I want to pursue medicine?
So, like I was saying.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't want to interrupt you.
No, that's okay. It's a lot of these choices are kind of feeling apocalyptic. Like if you make the wrong. I naturally
like talking, so I'm like that.
No, that's okay. I'm great. You don't want me to try and be the only one talking, carrying this whole thing. I run out of things to say. No, it just seems to be like. Let's say if I take the idea of apocalyptic and lay it onto your decision making about the future, does that bring anything to mind? It's the concept of making an apocalyptic, world-ending bad choice. Do you have levels of stress like that?
Ignore those motorcycles. I live on a very busy street.
It's okay.
But I guess I would say in some type of way, I think everybody thinks about the worst case scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
I don't focus on them, though. I try not to. I try to be a pretty positive person, but there's still some days, everybody has those days.
Gotcha. Yeah, that seems to relate. And I think I would have, if you'd asked me, do I think you're a mostly optimistic person? I would say yes. This dream to be says that. everything's going to be okay. This is not the end. You get to try again. It may be related, just the general theme, to your current struggles with managing all the variables in terms of cutting yourself some slack, saying, if I screw up this life or this choice, there's others. I can, there's nothing final even about an apocalypse. But also that I had another thought and I lost it. Damn. Oh, and that it's related to. No, gone. Popped right out of my head. I don't know. What do you think about that?
I think that's about right. That is pretty much what I think of it. It's like a lot of people tell me, people who are older than me that I ask that are in their mid-20s, I'm like, I really don't know what to do. And they keep telling me, well, you're young, you'll figure it out. You'll get it together. And it just doesn't feel, sometimes I'm like, but even if I am young, though, it kind of puts me back a few steps if I figure it out a little too late, or even like a year late. You know what I mean?
There are deadlines for so many
things. Yeah, I don't want to wait too long. Like, I just want to get started with my life, and it's just that impending sense of I want to get things done now that I'm slowly becoming an adult.
Okay. There is a little bit of that theme going through this dream as well too, is because you keep moving on. In one sense, your mind, the situation you're in, you're moved involuntarily in a way, like the world itself is destroyed. You don't even have a choice to say. It's just maybe there's something in there. Came to my mind that's your past receding. Does that make sense? Like once the day is gone, you can't get it back. It's been permanently destroyed by moving into the future. You are always moving into the future. Does that bring anything to mind?
Yeah, I guess it does in a way. Because, like I said, being a young adult, considering things like moving out of the house, what age am I going to do it? Mm-hmm. And then how things are going to change. It's kind of the same as, when some people get married, they don't live with their husbands at first. And so when they actually do get married and they say goodbye to their family, they're actually saying goodbye. That's the feeling I'm getting. It's like, I'm actually going to be saying goodbye. And I've lived with these people for flaws or whatever. I have lived with them for so long that it just feels weird.
Yeah. So contemplating moving out of the house feels very final. Feels like leaving your family in some permanent fashion. Yeah. Okay, you've been thinking about that. That also fits with the kind of apocalyptic sensation of something being destroyed. It was literally your world, the world you've known, the world you've lived in up until you decide to move out of the house. That part of your life, that experience will end with that. There will be a finality, even though I'm sure you can come back and visit. You can call them on the phone. You're going to see them again, but it has that feeling, right?
Yeah, but it's different because it's like, you don't do the same things you do, like wake up every morning and see them. Instead, you have to make a drive and visit them. So it just feels more like.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, there is something very special and unique about living together. And then as soon as you are not living together, that is now something else. That whatever it was before, it's not the same. It is fundamentally changed. So there might be something in there about the. What I'm trying to do is, why the sun? What does the sun represent to you? And why that method of closure, finality, destruction? When you think of those ideas together, the idea of the sun being the method, and not only that, but like a piece of the sun cracking off, being the primary or direct cause for the effect of the destruction of the world. What comes to mind?
Some of these things I kind of have to think about.
Sure. And it may not come to, and we may never figure it out. Sometimes it can be as easy as, that's the biggest, most destructive thing you could think of. The sun swallows the earth. And it doesn't even take the whole thing, just a tiny piece of it to wipe us all out. Sometimes your brain is just like, what's the biggest, most destructive? What's the most complete destruction I can imagine? The earth.
I guess
Go ahead.
Maybe it's because it's something people wouldn't think would happen so quickly. They talk about it a lot, how the sun is a star, it will combust, it will explode one day.
In billions of years, yeah.
I didn't think would happen.
So
I'm guessing it correlates to a part of my life that I just, or something simplistic that I didn't think would backfire, but ended up. So I guess maybe it could be something in relation to my decision-making process. The fact that I could choose something that I think is simplistic in the now, but in the later, it's something that is might backfire on me. That's something that stresses me out.
Do the words unintended consequences sound, does that resonate with you?
Yeah, it sounds like it, yeah.
Okay. I think that might be it too. So when you described it that way of like why, I kind of turned your mind in the direction of why the sun. And the first thing that came to mind was because you wouldn't expect that to happen. That was very unexpected. And so that led you, down that path of, what if I make a decision? What if I make a bad decision? But I don't know it. I think I'm doing the right thing, but the sun cracks off and destroys my world. It blows up in my face. I regret it later. Yeah. That's feeling like it makes a lot of sense to you in terms of that imagery.
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
Seems
But then your optimistic side pops in, and I mean, your first idea was regret, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that's what it felt like to me. This regret for. Go ahead.
As in mourning, I explained it as mourning, as in grief.
Yeah, like grieving for something lost. This and the reason I said regret was that it was this. You regret lost opportunities or mistakes.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Because now that I think about it, it does make sense. Because, with my boyfriend, having a traditional family, etc., etc., there are a lot of things that aren't exactly planned out. It's like, when should I do certain things? Like, when should I move out? What would be the appropriate age for these things? And I'm thinking, if I do it sooner than later, is it something I'm going to regret because we're young? If I do it later than sooner, is it something I'm going to regret because I would have been fine anyway, and that I worry for no reason?
Yeah. I mean, you just said that phrase, worry for no reason. Do you find you have a lot of worries that you're not sure are necessary? Do you worry about things that sometimes you wonder, should I even be worried about this? Am I obsessing? Do I spend too much time worrying?
No, I'm a pretty sure person when it comes to myself.
Okay.
When there is a worry, I think about, and actually that's kind of that's a contradicting statement.
Yeah.
Because nobody knows themselves to that extent. I guess I would say where it is with the basics, for the most part, I know myself to the extent where I see your cat. Cute.
Where is he?
Other side. Other way.
Oh, there he is in the window. Yeah. He's not on. Yeah, I don't think he's on the little camera, but yeah, there he is. That's Prince. That little shit ate my episode 8. What's that?
You have 2 cats?
There is another one. Do you see another one? Daughter's
okay,
in here.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's that one we call Daughter. Actually, her name's Wookie, but my wife just calls her Daughter.
Oh,
little baby girl,
cute.
Yeah. She is a scaredy cat. She hides. Yep, she's going back underneath there. She likes to be in tiny, dark places. We have more cats than that, and I'm not proud of it. Yeah, there's too many. We collect them like, I don't know, like some people collect Beanie Babies. We're the unofficial rescue shelter of our street, so they just live in our backyard and all over the place. Yeah. Okay, what were you saying? You were talking about you're generally you felt there was a contradiction there, but you said you're generally a fairly confident person in terms of if your mind is focused on a problem, you're fairly certain it's a real problem and needs careful deliberation.
Yes.
You trust yourself.
I feel like I'm worrying about something that's unrealistic or something that's not something I would have to worry about given my present situation. I'll be like, okay, it's stupid. Stop worrying about that. Like, don't even think about it. Like, let's move on. That has no effect on the situation I'm in right now. And I should just enjoy things while I have them.
And you feel pretty good about being able to kind of assess your process and triage what's really important to focus on and say that's a worry for another day, or that's unrealistic, or that's unlikely. But you also at the same time you're having this concern of not knowing where some choices might take you and whether it's good to do it now or later. So there are some things on your mind that are like, these are real concerns, but you're still unsure how to resolve it. So, and that's a lot of dream content comes from that too, of open questions on your waking mind, and then your dreaming mind is trying to get in touch with your actual fears or desires, the idea of what are you actually worried might go wrong and what is it you actually want. So that's a lot of what dreams is, in my opinion, my experience, is a lot of what dreams is trying to tell us. And it certainly doesn't do it in straightforward ways. It's not very often you get a dream where it does happen. It has happened, but where someone's like a person sits down with you at a table and says, look, I'm gonna tell you what's going on in your head. It's very often it's symbolic, of course, but it's because your mind doesn't even know sometimes what it is. Your mind doesn't always know what it wants, which sounds weird because it's trying to tell you something, but so it picks things that are similar or that represent a feeling or an idea, and it puts it in there and it says, how about these two things? If I put them next to each other, does that help you make a decision? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But I think, and then that also kind of speaks to not just your optimism, but a self-confidence too, to say, even after this world was destroyed, you go into this other place where there's a sense of calm, where there's this peacefulness, where all the fears are gone. I had another thought that jumped out of my head. It's related back to decision-making, to worrying about unintended consequences. When you put those things together, the peaceful void between worlds and the idea of unintended consequences and hopefulness, does anything come to mind?
I guess you could say it's my conscious, more mature self telling me, okay, let's get back to reality. Or
could be, yeah.
Like an intervention.
Almost like you held an intervention for yourself. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was you did describe it as a female voice, or at least the voice came from a female presence. And it was reminding you will be fine. There are other Earths. And we kind of played around with the idea that this Earth that was destroyed may not represent the actual planet Earth, but the idea of the circumstances in which you live, if that makes sense.
Maybe, yeah.
Does that not resonate? Is there a better way to describe it, you think?
I'm not sure if that's the way I'd put it. It was a different planet. I wouldn't say that the last Earth wasn't the real Earth. I would say something more like, you know how they say in the Milky Way there are probably hundreds of thousands of planets we don't even know exist yet?
Sure.
And there have been planets that have been found. I was just talking about it the other day with my boyfriend.
Yeah,
the Goldilocks planets such like that, that look exactly like Earth. That's what I'm talking about. Of course, the version I see later on in my dream is definitely more fantasy related, because why would there be an island floating around in space?
For sure.
Somehow
that was definitely not our known planet Earth. But I'm thinking more maybe metaphorical. So there's that very concrete representation that there are other planets you could live on and that your soul might be reborn into, and maybe like a physical sense, like if the actual Earth was destroyed, you could go on
another planet.
And that's kind of the feeling you had, was actually not just, say, reincarnating on Earth, because Earth has been destroyed, but that you would actually
going on like my same soul, but like, kind of like reincarnation, but the idea that you add on to your lives. You don't just start over anew with no experience or anything like that.
Yeah, there's
it's very dabbled in, and that's with every religion, every construct, or every idea where people add and take things away in coordination. I use coordination too much with their ideal.
Yeah. No, and the concept came to my mind as you were describing that, the continuity of self. I don't know if you've come across that phrase before. It's like you are different now than you were at, say, 6 years old, but you are still the same person, and you will still be the same person at 36 years old, even though you will also be a different person. But it's still the same self, experiencing one continuous existence through multiple discrete experiences. And I think there's something to the idea of, you were talking about your possibly leaving contemplating the idea of leaving your parents' home to would metaphorically be like a destruction of that particular incarnation of existence, and it would open the door to another one. You would metaphorically be on a new planet, the same person. Yeah, but in a new environment.
As a semi-different person.
Yeah, changed by the experience, by the transition. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. That's kind of making sense to you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good deal. I think we're onto something with that right there. And then the final part of the dream is very fascinating, probably the most fascinating. I mean, we've got so many different elements there. We've got, floating islands, and the idea that roots are coming out of the bottom, but then there's this moon, and what you're doing is you're living a life. You're engaged in, say, productive, life-sustaining activities. What do? You pick berries because you got to eat, and maybe you're going to make a pie, but there's a home. So this is where you live. And then another catastrophe happens, and it has an effect on other people. So I'm wondering if this is...
Before, it's definitely something much smaller. Because remember, in my mind, I was like, well, this happens all the time. The moons always do something like this.
Okay. The thought that just came to my mind was your answer to what if I blow up my world and transition to another life through that process, even though it's no, not even though, but I know still that even in that place there will be other catastrophes, and it'll be okay still. Is that making sense? Like, I think I used the wrong words.
Yeah.
But there seems to be a consistent theme across that. Do you have any thoughts?
No, I agree with you. I don't have anything else to really add to that. I agree with you.
That's fine. And this is not the only. It would be interesting to say, have you talk to someone else and get their impression. Maybe they would ask different questions. I can only hope that I'm not biasing the process by my own associations, and that's always possible. So I wouldn't say I am like the only authoritative dream wizard out there with the final say on all things symbolic. But there seemed like again more of that reassurance that we were talking about unintended consequences and making decisions that you thought might backfire. And I think that last section of the dream might have been your mind saying, yeah, you're probably right. There probably will be unintended consequences, and you won't know till you get there. And when it happens, it might affect other people you care about, but you've got family, maybe mother and father, to support you. They'll come to your aid as you are trying to solve the problem that was partially caused by choosing to live in this new place. If you weren't there, maybe that wouldn't be happening. And then but also probably I get the sense that you're a caring individual. You don't want your mistakes to hurt other people. So if you were maybe, or something related to you being there caused this moon to malfunction, and then that ended up hurting other people, you would want to make it right and help them, help repair the damage or minimize the harm to other people through the consequences of your actions. Yeah. I think I ran out of words. I don't know. What do you think of that whole the whole arc of kind of where we've been going with that? How do you think it lines up with your personality, with your thoughts?
I think we summed it up pretty well.
Do you feel like that's just in general, a satisfactory understanding of what the dream might have meant?
I think so. I think it did help me understand a lot of it.
Okay. Yeah, again, these are just my ideas. If you have doubts, if something doesn't resonate, if you have alternative theories, I'm happy to hear it. Were there any symbols or elements in the dream where you felt like we didn't spend enough time, or there's still something confusing, you don't know how it fits together? Does anything come to mind?
Not really. No, just that, like I said before, the otherworldly feeling. It feels like it just felt like a different dream. It's all.
Yeah. What do we do with that?
It felt pretty spiritual, like pretty. I don't know.
Yeah. No. We did kind of gloss over that a little bit. What do we do with that feeling? Why does this feel so? Why did the dream feel that way to you? How did you describe some of those things? You said different, strange, otherworldly, but also you were saying like important, like fated, like divine providence. Maybe there's a part of you that thinks some of these decisions are ultimately going to be out of your hands. Like some of these decisions might be made for you. Not like your parents are going to tell you what to do, but certain opportunities or obligations will come along. You can't predict that. And
I hope so. But man, do you know how hard it is to find a part-time job in college?
Yeah. Is that one of the unknown variables, that it's going to take an act of God or a fate to get you?
I'm not too stressed out about it. I am a little spoiled in the fact that I don't have to really work so much, but I still want to, only for the fact that, somehow I could help out, and then I'd also have money for myself. I wouldn't be broke.
That's the beginnings of independence, is getting that job and saying, I'm going to just provide for myself, at least my own hobbies and interests. You don't have to go to mom and dad and ask for money. That's a big deal. That really is.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, I mean, yet again, I was horribly confused for about 99% of this, and right at the very end, we kind of get something that makes sense, and that always blows my mind. I don't even know how that happens. That's a miracle.
Interpretation, the power of interpretation.
Yeah, the power of just two people kind of putting their heads together, having an honest conversation, open with each other in terms of, I'm thinking this, I'm thinking that, and you sharing details of your life that were probably relevant in your experiences. I mean, yeah, that got us where we were going. I love it.
I think so too.
Yeah. Well, unless you had any other final thoughts or questions, I could probably let you go. You've been very kind to hang out with me this long.
No, that's about it.
Okay, good deal. Well, then I'll just hang on a couple of minutes after I say goodbye here, and I'll just tell everyone watching, thanks for joining us for another episode of Dreamscapes, and like, share, subscribe, do all that good stuff, and we'll see you next time.